start without Tony being here.
We can start without Tony. Okay. So I'd like to call to order the Urban Renewal Commission meeting for Wednesday, May 20th.
Where did Renata say she wasn't coming?
She's not.
Roll call.
Commissioner Shaw?
Here.
Commissioner Benville?
Here.
Commissioner Holliday?
Here.
Commissioner Mengelberg is absent. Chair Smith?
Here. All right, and then we don't have any citizens in the audience, so I guess we'll move on. Adoption of the agenda.
I move to adopt the agenda.
Okay, we don't need
Yeah.
to do this in
All right.
case anyone
All right.
has any.
No.
Okay. So first item of business is a request for additional tenant improvements at the train station. And that will be Eric Underwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a request for additional tenant improvements at the train station. We did complete the initial project January 30th of this year, finally. But at the end of that project, we noticed that there's still some things that probably need to be done in order to make it a tenable space. After tearing up the carpet and everything in the train station, the floors are in really rough shape. We were hoping they weren't, but it's going to need reflooring for anyone to move in there. That's the major expense here that we're requesting. These are estimates, by the way, that I have in the staff report. I'll just go through the list. The other items are interior painting, more functional overhead lighting. The interior painting is estimated at $3,000. We think that might be a little high, so we could try to get that down. The functional overhead lighting is $1,500, and there needs to be additional demolition of a wall, and the carpet needs to be taken up because it's in really bad shape. It's moldy. So it all comes to a total of $25,000 for that project. The initial project came in at $71,000. There were a lot of elements that we weren't expecting in that project. There were no as-built, no blueprints for that structure, so we had to go and get those done. There were some structural issues in the roof that we had to take care of. So those added to the expense of the project. So with that, I'll take any questions you might have. I should say that if this is approved, then we'll start work around August this year and hopefully be completed by October. And then we still have our tenant who's ready to move in.
So
Any questions?
I have a couple comments. One is, what was the initial budget? And then we also already approved a certain amount over and above that.
Right. So the initial budget, when the budget was first approved, was $45,000.
Okay. And then we bumped it all the way up to 71.
71.
And then we're asking for another 25,000.
5. Yes.
And how much did we pay for the building?
I don't have that.
It was a lot.
It was a lot. Yeah.
Way too much. Boy.
Who did the original walkthrough of the building there to kind of do the checklist here of items? Seems like one would have pulled the carpet, I think, on the original thing to kind of see what was under there.
Yeah, we had our architect who we hired to go through and do the initial walkthrough, and a member of our representative from the contractor.
And we're at,
And nobody looked under the carpet?
We looked under the carpet, but there were certain areas that were okay, but once we tore it all up, it was pretty rough shape. They were missing some panels there, and there's no way we could have seen that or know where that was until we pulled the carpet up, all of it.
so we're at 141,000 on our portion of improving the train depot.
Yes.
And so, I mean, like interior painting, that should have been a pretty identifiable scope.
We didn't do it at the initial budget because my budget was very limited at $45,000, so it wasn't in the scope.
Okay, so, and then, I mean, the initial work, the 71K was done on January 30th. And then I'm just trying to figure out when this is going to be up and running, right? I mean,
Not much else.
because when is the bistro, the First City Central Marketplace and Bistro going to do their work?
So,
Just to clarify, the total budget method it's been
96.
It wasn't 45.
It was.
Oh, I added 45. It's double. I
Increased
doubled
it.
that up. Yeah, yeah. No, that's good clarification. Yeah.
So the bistro, they have a list of items of for additional improvements that's more customized to their use. We felt these were more of essential items for any business to come in. However, the painting could be something that we move over to the tenant. It's
You seen the, Rocky, so I don't know if you're just talking here.
Sorry.
but The bistro, so when the tenant comes in,
He's going to have additional improvements that he'll need to make.
that we're,
We won't be paying for them.
okay,
He'll be paying for them out of his pocket, but we will approve them.
okay.
But sometimes it makes sense to do the interior painting as kind of the overall, right? And you probably couldn't even get a better, magnitude of scope and save a little bit of money by having it in the same painting contractor and everything else. So I would recommend that we do that with the bistro improvements. But so can you give me an update on that, on the tenant themselves and the plans there?
Yes, they're ready to go. The financing is in place. He is just wanting some of these additional items to happen before he can move in. But as soon as these items are taken care of, if they are, then he'll be ready to move in.
So do we have a signed lease?
We've got a signed lease. Yes. We just.
And is that lease contingent on anything?
Oh, I'd have to go back and look at. Yeah.
Like
I mean,
Amtrak continuing to stop there?
No.
Really?
That Amtrak is not included in the lease.
Okay, so here's my concern. While we went down to the legislature earlier this year and thought we had cleared the Amtrak Cascades hurdle, apparently that is back in play. So there is still a possibility that the legislature will not fully fund Amtrak Cascades this session, and if they do not, those trains will stop running. And if they stop running, I don't see how that place can survive. So I think it would be wise for us to delay this decision until the legislature is finished, so we know whether or not we're throwing good money after bad if the trains aren't running.
We have a signed lease, though.
Right.
They have a signed lease. Yes,
So
they have a
is
signed
there
lease.
any legal implications there that says we're stopping, but we have a signed lease?
We don't have a start date on the lease yet. We're waiting for the improvements to be done. Because it's tiered, because the commission agreed, if you recall, the first 6 months is rent-free, and then it
Right.
goes up a certain percentage for the next year, and then again the third year, and then after the third year is market rate.
So I'm curious, Dan, whether there should be a discussion with the bistro owner that if he's aware of the Amtrak situation.
Yes, he told me this evening that he doesn't see, he said that the legislature is committed to fund it partially.
Half.
$5 million, half. But the folks that he's talked to, there really isn't a concern that they might Band-Aid it through the first year at least. But he doesn't see the Cascade line going away. So that's what
Well,
he
I
conveys
mean,
to me.
I hate to tell you this, but Eric Kanzler, our lobbyist, is very concerned.
So
And I'm putting together a letter for, all of the mayors on the line to sign. But Betsy Johnson, Senator Johnson, is the one who's really, throwing the wrench in the works because she doesn't think it's timed right or something. I'm not exactly sure what her issue is, but I mean, the legislature's kind of like a courtroom. You never know what they're going to do until they finally do it.
But at the same time, so we can't do that ourselves. We can't just stop our progress because we don't know what's going on in the state legislature.
These improvements are identified as improvements that would accommodate any business
Yeah.
that's not associated with this particular tenant.
But we have to face the facts that if the trains aren't running, what business would want to locate there? It's completely off the beaten track. There's nothing else around it. You got to go up steps or a ramp to get to it. I'm just saying that, putting $25,000 into this thing now without knowing, I think, we can end up looking kind of stupid.
I don't know. My personal feeling is I think it'll keep running. It's probably it's a very popular mode of transportation. I have a hard time even booking a train ride up to Seattle and back.
Yeah, but that's the Empire Builder. That's not the Cascades. The Cascades
No,
only.
both.
The tenant was telling me that there was an issue with the time. They had changed the time for the stop here in Oregon City to 6:20, which made the ridership go way down. And so there's a push to change the time back to when ridership was up. And so that's being considered currently. And that's where the confidence comes from. The tenant.
I guess I'm not as much as concerned about trying to second guess if they're going to fund the train. It's more of, we were done with our improvements on January 30th. We're now on the end of May, so that's like 5 months of non-progress. And I had actually thought that by now the tenant would start doing his improvement, and geez, by the summer they'd be in business and take advantage of the tourist season. So that's the part that I'm a little bit disappointed in. And then all of a sudden coming up with another 25 grand. So, but I think we've gone this far. It was really important at one time for this project to happen. And I'd still like to support it.
Well, we're in it pretty deep now, and I I think the best we can do is finish it. I'm a little disappointed in a lot of these things we didn't find in the original walkthrough. That, an old building like that we should have figured it's going to need all new carpet right off the bat. So, but anyway, I think we should follow through with it. And if the bistro ends up not doing it, we got to market it. And some business, some kind of business, I think, should be interested in that. It doesn't have to be anything train related or anything, but it's a nice property. I think somebody should be interested. I mean, there was businesses in it before it was relocated. It was full. So
When it wasn't on a train platform.
well,
True.
I know, but there's still ramps and stairs and stuff. So I still think it might be even more marketable now the way it sits and stuff. I don't know. Parking's great and everything and stuff. So, yeah.
Well, here, my concern is I was on the city commission when we built a fire station that we knew we couldn't fill with people. And it sat empty for I don't know how many years, but many years. So I don't want to be the guy that says, okay, let's throw another, so what's the project total going to be by the time we do this last 25,000?
96.
I would like to know with the building, because it cost us a ridiculous amount of money.
Well, but the building's been there. It's
Empty, right?
Yeah,
For how many years?
I agree. I guess my problem is spending this money now, especially with the prospect of a possibility of the trains not being there. I have a real hesitation about that. I don't want to be the guy who said, okay, we spent $100,000 and now we have a building that's sitting there, has been empty and will continue to be empty. They come back 4 years from now during an election campaign and they say, well, why did you do that?
We have a tenant. So we have to finish the job for the tenant to move in.
There are default options written in the lease where we would recoup our expense.
Do they have a way? Does he have a way to get out of the lease if he should desire to?
It's not favorable for the tenant
Okay.
if he were to, and he realizes that. And so, but he's still willing to move forward. And from opinion of staff, that's a business decision. That's not
Sure.
yeah.
Does anyone have a motion?
I move to approve the additional tenant improvements at the train station.
Oh, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion?
Is there any further discussion?
I was just asking the question.
I think we've had it. So moved by Commissioner Benville, seconded by Brian Shaw.
Commissioner Shaw,
Yes.
Commissioner Benville,
Yes.
Commissioner Holliday,
Yes.
Chair Smith.
Yes.
It passes.
All right. That's it for
Dion.
general business. Future agenda items. Any?
Can't think of it.
Yet.
I brought this up, I got city commission, but I would like to have us visit the, I'm going to call it the McDonald's property, I guess, down on the, our urban renewal property we have next to McDonald's.
Clackamas Park?
Yeah. We need to
Revisit it how?
discuss its future. And I guess the question, if I could at this time, is to bring up, when does that listing expire, Eric?
August.
Okay.
So it is being marketed now.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that's a
Yes.
sign on. That's why I'm curious, Dan, so,
So through August.
yeah.
And have there been any nibbles?
Oh, there've been a lot of nibbles, not a lot of bites.
Yeah.
So,
So
yeah.
maybe we could talk about it right before.
I would
August,
like
I mean,
to,
before
yeah,
we
I just,
renew.
that's correct. I'd like to see it, but talk about it before we renew it and stuff.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
I will
Right.
say there have been a couple of organizations that I've talked to that seemed like they were going to submit a pretty substantial offer and have a substantial proposal, but they just kind of fell off the map. But as well, we had some nibbles too, so
Okay.
there's interest there.
So I assume the exec session is covering the other thing that happened in the last couple of weeks?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. City managers report.
I don't have anything tonight.
All right. So we're gonna adjourn. Do I need to make say anything about the executive session?
Yeah, you're going to say we're going to
We're gonna adjourn, right?
pursuant to.
Pursuant to ORS 192.6602E, to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing body to negotiate real property transactions. And that's it.